Do you know that deep down, I never had not one iota of concern about coronavirus ever? I didn't believe it was real. I never got COVID. I'm never going to get COVID. I'm suspicious of anybody who's getting COVID. The more times that you get COVID, the weirder you look, the weirder you fucking are. The closer to the arrogant matchmakers at the seat of power that you must be, the more you can get from tomato sauce to make you the most powerful person in Washington. The more it doesn't make any sense to me. Like, it's not even my fault if you look weird. I just didn't capitulate to a false narrative. I can't afford anybody else the perspective that I got. Like, this would definitely be longer than an hour. I definitely forget too many things to recall to make my point. Then I remember it later. Then I don't even have to worry about that shit. You know what I mean? Like, it's just there to stress over it. And then I'll probably be sharing my perspective with one of the gatekeepers, like a Pisces or somebody like that. Like somebody who got COVID 3 times, that, you know what I mean? It's probably you. You're a virulent aspect of society, right? Where I can't really levy this charge against average people, but at some point I will be able to. It's just they can't afford the perspective yet because the perspective that's for them has not arrived yet. When it does, if they reject it, then I can reject them on the whole premise that you're a weird fucker, Munchausen cop. Since you've seen Ferris Bueller's Day Off, you've been programmed to think that the Munchausen guy was cool, that we like him, he was a nice guy, his dad's mean, you know what I mean? He shouldn't get in trouble for putting miles on that car or breaking a window or anything like that because his dad was mean. Like, you know what I'm saying? He was totally possessed with the love that car more than he loved his son. You know what I mean? And so you resonate with him on so many different levels. It's not like a human could have thought that far in advance to say that we have this plan or anything like that. It's not human. It's gematria. It's like humans are afraid of conspiracy theory. They should be afraid of conspiracy. You know, like gematria is a conspiracy. This is all part of our environment, and we all have like the programming and shit. And they come at these words. You know what I mean? Like, you better be careful what you call yourself. If you come up with a logo, mantra, mojo, or anything, like, and affix it to yourself, the words have this numerical value and shit. It should play out because it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. You know what I mean? The word pronto in gematria, the word pronto was something like gifts of the Holy Spirit or something like that. But as you know, people can receive gifts from the Holy Spirit. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're sanctified. Pronto, this sounds like Johnny on the spot, like at your will is my command, like almost like right away. Gifts. It's gifts. So I'm not saying that there's an evil cabal. Even if there is an evil cabal, they wouldn't know, they wouldn't even be able to afford this much perspective either. You see Satan's plan in Gematria, not no fucking human. But something that ties all of us together would be the value of the words we use, the numerical value, the resonant value. And anything that ends up in Gematria was not thought out enough, like an exotic name for a pathology. If you looked up like toxoplasmosis cebolii gondii, it's not going to tell you that much. You're not going to be able to use it for Gematria. But if I said COVID-G, COVID-Wu, Delta something, then it's into the death by numbers. Have you ever seen that movie, House of Numbers? AIDS didn't kill anybody. It was the testing and the inconclusive testing and the AZT in conjunction with the party drug poppers. Because if people thought that they were going to die, they have one foot in the grave and they want to have some enjoyment. And then they brought on their own death, and it wasn't even necessary. If they would have taken no action, they would be fine, like a Magic Johnson. But the actions that they took killed them. And if you don't think so, why didn't Magic Johnson reveal what was in the bag? When he came out of the clinic, he came out of a clinic, an AIDS physician. He had a bag, some drugs. He didn't tell anybody what they was, anything like that. This motherfucker's cured. 40 years ago, he got HIV. I don't know, 40 years ago? 40 in the 80s? 40, over 40 years. He could go and get it. He can jump on a dating site now. He could probably get on a dating site. It's not like he has AIDS. But at this point, you can say, you know what I mean? Because you're supposed to only last like 10 years, 10, 15 years, and then you dead. Like, he's not even worried about it. I'm cool off that shit. I'm cool off. I wouldn't even want to approach him about that shit now. We're like, man, can you just let somebody cure themselves? We need a cure so bad. If a cure ever came, we would crucify the motherfucker. Because you're not going to get a cure to something that's just a virulent aspect of society. The grift, the house of numbers, the inconclusive tests, and the goose chase, the fucking mission that you have to go on. You might want to cure your spouse, and you become a doctor in the process. But Fauci is not going to tell you is that you don't need to cure it. You just need to not have a reaction to the next thing that you would be lined up for. And if you can't blame a human being, then doesn't mean that it's not a conspiracy. It's like the first thing a narcissist is going to tell you if you tell them about themselves is they're going to tell you to look in the mirror. What good is that information? You're like, damn, look in the mirror. You're a narcissist. Like, what good is that to tell them? Like, you know what I mean? Just be yourself. You know, you don't gotta look in the mirror all the time. But they studied us. They know what we expected to hear and shit.